Hi, and welcome to Champions of Inspiration. I'm your host, Scott Schilling. Wendy, the Financial Lion, has been making her clients' financial futures fabulous for 2 decades. She turns clients into multi-millionaires and grew $10,000 into more than a billion, with a B, for two grandchildren, making their future more amazing than grandma could ever thought possible. As a host of the TV show, podcast, and radio show Wealth and Wisdom, she's inspiring her audience to grow, heal, and thrive so they can enjoy true wealth in life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. She's listed in the International Who's Who of Female Executives and was awarded the Outstanding Woman of Leadership Award by Women's International Leadership Association. Wendy, thank you for joining us on Champions of Inspiration.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, where do we start with this? I'm sorry, the elephant in the room is taking 10,000 to a billion. I got to go there first. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, amazing, right?
Yes, share a little bit about that piece of expertise.
How did I do that? Is that the question?
Besides very well, obviously.
Well, this was a grandmother. Go ahead.
No, I was saying besides very well. Obviously, you did it very well.
So this was a grandmother whose son had passed away, and anyone who knows my story, I was widowed young. My husband died when he was only 24 in a motorcycle accident. And we had two little girls, 1 and 3, and a whopping $20,000 of life insurance. So this was a grandmother whose son had passed away and left behind 2 little girls, and she had $10,000 to invest in each one of their futures. So of course, this really spoke to me. So I'm going to I always do the best that I possibly can for my clients, but this was especially near and dear to my heart, if you will. So I worked on a number of different things and scenarios, and nothing was blowing my hair back. I always want to blow my clients' hair back. Like, not just here's what we could do. I want to be like, here's what we can do. You know what I mean? So I thought outside the box, and I put them into a vehicle that this will stay with them for their whole entire life. And thanks to the time value of money, that's really what it is, because they were only 2 and 4 years old. They turn into, it's actually projected to be 2.3 billion for the 2-year-old and 2.1 billion for the 4-year-old. So I just cut that in less than half because it's already mind-boggling. Like, how did you go 10,000 into over a billion? So that's even on the conservative side. So yeah, grandma is a little annoyed that nobody ever did this for her. And of course, we had $20,000 in life insurance. And if I knew then what I know now, I could have invested that into each one of my kids' lives, and they'd be multi-millionaires right now. But, you don't know what you don't know. And what you don't know can and will hurt you. So it's my job to tell you what you don't know, because there's a lot of tips and tools and tricks out there that your average person, you're just unaware. I mean, how many people graduate and even have any kind of financial literacy when they graduate high school or even college? And then you're thrown all these credit cards and here, buy this. It's just, until the bill comes in. And then before you know it, you not only got all your college debt, but you've got all your student loan debt. So
yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing that we have done as a nation, probably the world, but I'm going to, suggest here in the United States, we've done such a poor job of financial literacy, through our educational system and just doing it. It's got to start somewhere, sometime. I mean, hopefully that is now, because we got to get out ahead of this better than we certainly have been.
Oh, yeah. And now Americans are 1.3 trillion in credit card debt and 15.7 trillion in household debt. And, when you have debt, it's like having this little dark cloud that follows you around, right? You're always, you may not feel stress, but I think subconsciously you just always have that underlying tone of what if something goes wrong? What if the car breaks down? What if we need a new roof on the house? What if? And oh, we're just going to be more in debt. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it can be completely remedied. I actually have a system that'll get you out of debt in like record time without you changing your budget or lifestyle, which is important. Um, so I have clients that would be paying on their mortgage and their credit cards for another, well, their mortgage at least for another 25 years. They'll be completely debt free in 4.1 years. Like,
That's
I
awesome.
mean, rapid time, huge.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. And those are all things that, again, not only do we need to be taught that earlier, but I mean, I think there's got to be a demarcation point at some point where we have to say, enough's enough. Let's stop this and let's go forward with this. I think it's interesting. I was talking to one of my kids, actually, a millennial, and they have. Um, I'm very proud of them for a variety of reasons, but they've really stopped down and said, "What do we need? If we do this, this, and this, what will it take?" And they've really kind of pulled in the reins, or they've created the systems. I wouldn't say pull in the reins, but created the systems to allow them to accomplish their goals. Novel concept, isn't it?
That's awesome. Add a boy for them. That is so awesome.
I
And
think it,
I go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I just think it's really cool. I wish they would have shared that with me earlier, but I mean, I think it's cool that um, there are people like you out there who are willing to share this knowledge. I think that's very commendable. I think that's exciting.
Well, I'm so glad you think it's exciting. A lot of people, they actually did a survey and they said that people would rather have a root canal than talk to a financial professional. So that's why on my LinkedIn I put in I'm the fun financial lion because we're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to have fun and we're going to make your future bigger and brighter than you ever thought it was possible. But I really commend your son, especially being a millennial, because just doing a little bit now can have such a huge impact in the future. If you were 20 years old and you started saving $13 a month, just 13, you would save $1 million by the time you're 67.
Wow.
13
Uh,
bucks a month.
eh, yeah, I mean, those are the things that need to be shared more and more. And well, the good news is, if you only had a TV show. Oh, wait a second, you do.
Oh,
Wealth building strategies for a secure future. Well, let's talk
yes,
about
yes,
that.
that's
Tell us all about
okay.
your TV show.
Okay. So that is launching today. This is a 6-part mini TV series that I did. And we really start from the foundation, like where do you start? And as I shared, my husband died when he was very young, and we had nowhere near the amount of life insurance we should have had. And that's a very easy formula to figure out because a lot of people go, well, I don't know how much I need. I just want to pay off the house or the cars or whatever. But the formula is you simply take what you make each year and multiply it by the number of years until you're going to retire. Easy peasy. So my husband, if he was making 40 grand a year back then, and just for easy math, say he was going to retire at 64, 40 years times $40,000 is 1.6 million. That was the economic impact left behind when he died. So do you have to get that much? No, but that's how much you could qualify for. And so we start from there, kind of the foundation, because you are your most valuable asset. Oftentimes, Scott, when I ask somebody, what's your most valuable asset? They'll think, oh, what's the equity in my home? What do I have in my 401k? And they completely negate the fact that it's your ability to go out and earn an income that first and foremost needs to be protected. So that's number one. And because if you don't have that foundation in place, then all the other wealth you build is going to be consumed once that cancer diagnosis or the disability or, God forbid, the death occurs. Now you're consuming all of the other wealth to make up for that vacuum that's been left behind. So we kind of set the foundation and then we go into get out of debt, get rid of that debt load, especially if you're nearing retirement. You want to be debt free. And then how to plan for your retirement, and then how to leave a legacy that lasts. So it's really all of those steps to follow you throughout your whole financial life.
Yeah, I think that, um, it's interesting, and it's one of the, and I'll call myself on it. There were times in my career where I made silly money, and I did a lot of good with it. I did a lot of things with it.
I bet you
Um,
did.
but you also don't ever think that that'll end. And
Mm.
hint, it ends. There are things that come along, or I never expected to have a near death experience. The good news is I lived through it. I'm an overachiever. I lived, but so I made it
I have read
through.
about your experience.
Well,
It was
well,
quite the amazing experience. Like, holy
well,
moly.
well, thank you. I take no credit for it, but the good news is I'm here. But what you don't, you know, I mean, 6 days in intensive care is $278,000, and that was a number of years ago. It's
Yes.
significantly more than that. My sister was a neonatal intensive care nurse at Scripps Hospital in San Diego for years, and they had 3,805 preemies one year. And she said, we're so proud we haven't lost one of them. And I said, that's amazing. But every one of those kids is at least $1 million child. And I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
where where does that come from?
It's
Times
mind boggling.
3,000. It is. Just think of the number, right?
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, medical, I mean, we can look at all sorts of different things, but I think 65% of all bankruptcies right now are medical related.
I would believe that the average retired couple is going to come out of pocket $250,000 in medical expenses. That's just average. I had appendicitis one time. I've had every kind of appendectomy, splenectomy, you name it. I've had ectomies. Um, and I was in the hospital from 9 o'clock at night till 1 in the morning. And they still didn't know whether I had an ovarian cyst or if I had appendicitis. So they sent me to my regular doctor the next day, just said, go see him. That bill for 4 hours was over $15,000 for 4 hours. And this is,
Yeah.
decades ago.
Right.
So the medical expenses alone are enough to ruin anyone's retirement.
Well,
If
that's
you
why I
don't
think
have if you haven't planned for
I
that, or
think
you don't have long-term care, or,
yeah,
nursing care or something like that, you're just, especially out here. I have a client whose husband is in a memory care home. It's 7,000 a month.
well,
That's 84 grand a year. And he's gonna, he's not gonna get any better. So he's gonna be there until he passes away. She didn't plan on that.
yeah, I think that's the it's to raise awareness. A lot of times when I'm on stage, I'll ask the audience by a show of hands, how many of you don't know what you don't know? Uh, Typically,
Right?
I get most people to raise their hand, and the next question becomes, is it fair to say that somebody knows what you don't know? And I would
Mm.
even go to the point, is it fair to say that Wendy knows what you don't know? And that's why I wanted to do this show, to share your genius and really see how we could serve some people by getting them some better information. I mean, at least when you have information, you can make a more quality decision, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. And 90% of what I do really is education, because you just don't know what's out there. Even if you were to go on Google and go, what's my best retirement plan possibility or whatever, would you know that there's companies that have a 25% bonus just for signing on the dotted line? So if you have 100,000, now you've got 125, just like that. Or there's even one, it's not offered in California, but there is another company that offers a 50% bonus. Now, are they going to want to hang on to your money for 7 to 10 years for doing that? Yeah. So, but if you're 50 and you're not going to retire till you're 65, hang on to my money. I don't care. Turn my 100,000 into 150. Thank you very much. Can anyone else do that for you in 2 weeks' time? or less. I don't think so. But you wouldn't know to Google, where can I get a 50% bonus on my money today? You know what I mean? You don't even know what's out there.
Well, I
I
think
didn't
that
know.
yeah.
Go
Well,
ahead.
that's why having that kind of expertise available to you is so important. Again,
Yeah.
why hence the reason you're on this show and you're a champion of inspiration. We need to
Oh,
inspire some people.
I hope so. I hope so. You've seen my email lines. My tagline is life doesn't come with a remote control. You have to get up and change it yourself. And there's no time like today to start making those changes because tomorrow isn't promised. You know what I mean? I think the biggest lie we all buy into is that we always think tomorrow is going to be just the same as it was today. But tens of thousands of people are dying on America's highways. They're dying of strokes. They're dying of heart attacks. Death happens, which is kind of funny because I always think, if you have a car, you have to have automobile insurance in case you get into an accident. If
Right.
you have a home, you have to have homeowners insurance in case your home burns down. Well, we're all going to die. So why anybody, if you don't cover that? And the thing is, everybody thinks, oh, it's only good if you die. And I don't want to have that conversation because I don't like to think about death. There's a reason it's called life insurance because the benefits of you living with this as your companion are amazing. It's amazing. I had one client, she was 28 years old, came to me and said, Wendy, you came super highly recommended. I want to plan for my retirement. What should I do? So we ran a number of different scenarios, and I wanted to make sure because she owned her own business, I wanted to make sure that if life happened and, she had a few bad months, that this wouldn't fall by the wayside, right? Whatever I want to put in your life, I wanted to have the flexibility to move with you when life throws you those kind of curveballs. So she settled on 500 a month, and I did a way where the monthly payment was 250, but she got to add an extra 250, which really just makes the cash go like forget about it. So she's throughout the course of her life, remember she was only 28, she's going to put in $222,000, but it grows into 5.6 million all tax free. So that's the beauty of starting young. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of, you only hear about term insurance and things like that. And that's why you want to talk to me because there's a lot more benefits and things that are available out there. And the Dave Ramseys and the Susie Ormans of the world just poo poo it. And everybody thinks that they are the authority. So if they say it's wrong, therefore it must be wrong. Well, I beg to differ and I can prove them wrong. And I actually do prove them wrong. And not to bash them, but there are other ways. There are definitely other ways,
Well,
and
I,
it
I think
doesn't
that
have to
that's
come from a scarcity mindset either.
yeah, I think that that's the important part. Information is an amazing thing. When you have knowledge, and numbers are an amazing thing.
Yeah.
When you have knowledge of a thing, you can now make a better decision toward how to serve yourself. And yes, there are the premium gurus, if you want to call them that, or I don't know what you even want to call them. But the reality is, I think it's the people in the pits. I mean,
Mhm.
meaning doing it every day that you know it makes a tremendous amount of sense to get that information and look at it critically. I think that's a big part of many of our challenges of this day and age in this society is we've stopped our critical thinking about situations. And again, it's interesting. The more mature that I get, that's code word for older. That as this goes by, you think back to am I starting to sound like my parents? But at one point, actually, at this point, I wish I sounded like my parents, but my parents didn't share that thought process back in those days. So I mean, I
Yeah.
think we've got to be able to get better information out for people to consider. My approach to everything is learn the information, consider it critically, and then make the best decision for you. Uh,
Yes.
I don't think
Sage
anybody should
advice.
mandate or dictate, quite frankly, to anybody.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't work with my kids or my wife. So,
Yeah. It's
so
amazing how different kids can be when they both came out of the same two people, and it's like they could be night and day. I have 2 daughters, and they're complete opposites.
Yeah, well,
Complete
like I
opposites.
say, um, I think it's fair to say that we need to take personal responsibility for our financial situation going forward because it seems that less and less will be done in our behalf by the overall government and everything like that. It just we've got too many programs taking and not enough programs filling.
Yes.
This is called math. That's not
Yes.
overly hard to figure out. So you gotta meet somebody like Wendy.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I don't want your listeners to think that that's all I do, because I've got lots of tips and tools and tricks up my sleeve. So if someone in your audience has $1 million and they want guaranteed 10% return for the next 10 years, and at the end of 10 years, they can get their $1 million back, or they can roll it for another 10. I mean, there's so many vehicles out there. That's why I can say with such ease that I turn my clients into multi-millionaires all day long,
That's
all day
awesome.
long.
And
I
and
love
how
doing it. I love
yeah,
to do
how can
that.
you argue that with such a nice person? I mean, my goodness. So then let's talk about it, and I know you're committed to legacy as well. So what are you
Yes.
doing to leave a greater legacy?
Well, I'll tell you what I did, because once I get into this industry, the one of the first things I did was I'm remarried in the year 2000, so I have 5 life insurance policies on my current husband. Thank you very much, because if he dies, I just want to cry for as long as I want to cry. I don't want to have to worry about how things are going to be paid or any of that. But another thing I did is I wrapped all of my grandchildren into a permanent life insurance policy. So for just a little between 25 and $50 a month, I've already planned for their retirement. They've got hundreds of thousands of dollars waiting for them in retirement, all tax free, which tax free is huge. Okay. Remind me to bring up the 44.8% proposed capital gains tax that certain people want to propose. But so now I've left their retirement's taken care of, and now they have a death benefit that if they pass away, that goes on to my yet to be born great grandchildren. So that's a legacy. And then, of course, I'm training them all. This is what you do, so that my great great grandchildren will be taken care of. And 10% or more of everything that I do, I use to fight human trafficking, which is another cause very, very, very near and dear to my heart, that I became aware of like back in 2006. So I really believe I agree with you completely, where in the law of reciprocity, and it's not that I give to get, it's that I get to give. And I think
Y
that's important.
Yeah, I think that that's awesome. I mean, I think that was actually where I was going earlier, and I never got there, was uh, I think a lot of times when people look at you and say, "Well, how much is enough?" You know?
Mm.
And another speaker, we were at an event one day and somebody said that, and they said, "So when's enough enough?" And he said, "Enough to live on or enough to do good works in the world?"
Mm.
And that was a mic drop moment because the reality is we live in an abundant world, an abundant society, and if we can make more and do more, the fact is we can make more and do more. We can
Yes.
do those legacy things that would solve a significant number of issues. And
Yes.
I think we can all agree that there's a significant number of issues these days that need to be addressed. Some of them are being addressed, some of them are not being addressed. I know that one of my goals as an entrepreneur was to make way too much money to have an entrepreneurial pool to support entrepreneurs. Because the one thing, there are people who have the heart and soul to make things happen, but they don't have the support to make them happen. They're willing to work for it, they're willing to
Yeah.
go through walls for it, but they
Yeah.
don't have the support to make it happen. And
Yes.
that's a shame.
Yes.
But
I
I
will tell you something. Oh, go ahead. Go
sure,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
Um, when I became aware of human trafficking, and I'll just tell you briefly what happened, why I was just hooked the minute that I heard about it was, I'm in San Diego, so of course we have a proximity to Tijuana, to the border of Mexico. And a pastor and his wife went down to Tijuana to the red light district, and they just wanted to see how easy it is to buy a person, to get a human being. And they were only there for about half an hour, and someone offered them a 2-month-old baby for $20.
Oh,
And when they turned around in absolute horror and disgust, the guy thought that it was because they wanted to barter. Well, I had 5 grandchildren, all little blonde-haired, blue-eyed little grandchildren at the time, and I thought, if that ever happened to one of my kids, it would rip my heart out of my I mean, I wouldn't be able to sleep until they were found again. So I just thought, I have to do something about this. And I've been involved in it ever since. Well, I went around to different nonprofits and said, here's a whole proposal, like a whole marketing idea, like the whole entire kit and caboodle. And they were like, well, that's a very nice idea, Wendy, but we're just not going to do that. Well, and then they would take my ideas, but not me. So finally, had the TV on in my office one day, and there was for 2 weeks, it was Life Outreach International. They had a show on sex trafficking. And I said, let me just try one more time. And they said, oh, they welcomed me with open arms. They had a website where you could put, anybody could donate, you could keep track of it, you could set your goal and all of that kind of thing. They gave you the videos. And I just thought, why doesn't everybody do this? So if they want to come alongside a nonprofit or any organization and help, give them the tools to do so. I thought, what a brilliant idea. So I did
I,
that and go ahead.
I know those folks, and they're amazing folks here, and their headquarters are, I don't know, 10 miles maybe from my house,
Oh,
and
you know them.
I
Oh,
do.
awesome. I
I
was
know
just
them
back
and know
go
their
ahead.
programs, and they have done a lot of good. There's
Oh
no
yeah.
doubt.
Oh yeah. I was just back in Texas last year for their 60th anniversary, their wedding anniversary and their ministry anniversary. So
I
awesome. Yeah.
I actually volunteered at their 50th ministry anniversary
Oh,
and
how
the
funny.
big
Well, I
event
wish
there.
I knew you were only 10 miles away. We could have had lunch or something.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I mean, I think, there's so many people, there is so much abundance available in the world if people would, um, I mean, think a little bit about how they could sliver off just a little bit of it and
Yeah.
and do so much good, and I think with a lot of the programs you have, I mean, they turn into significant amounts of money, right? That
Yeah.
could do a tremendous amount of good. So not a whole bunch turns into a whole bunch that can do a tremendous amount of good, and I honor you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, one of my in the 5 simple steps to financial success, the rule number 1 is to pay yourself first, right? Because if you don't have that savings, you don't have that cushion. Again, the stress, the dark cloud following you around, right? But what we live on is the 10-10-80 rule, where you give 10, you save 10, and you live on 80. And that first 10% comes back to you over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt. Well, man, we've used our time. That's wow. It's when you talk
That went
about
by
cool.
lickety split.
I know it's cool when you just talk about good things and helping people. So how
Yeah.
do people get a hold of you? Not like there's anything in the background that might clue it, but how do they get a hold of Wendy, the financial lion?
Okay, well, if you want to get on my calendar and have a free financial strategy session with me, just go to thefinanciallion.com/schedule. And like I said, we'll laugh, we'll have a great conversation. You'll be informed, you'll be educated, empowered. And even if we never do business together, I promise that I will do whatever I can to help you, to support you, to connect you, to introduce you, whatever it might be. So we'll end up being good friends, I promise.
And I would agree with that. I have
Oh,
experienced this. So, Wendy, thank you for joining us here on Champions of Inspiration.
oh, thank you so much for having me, Scott. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And all of you, thanks for joining us. Come back next week. We're doing this again. God bless. Send friends. Talk to you soon.